Labradorite is one of the most visually distinctive feldspar minerals because it appears relatively dark or muted until light strikes it at the correct angle. Then intense flashes of blue, gold, green, copper, or violet appear seemingly from inside the stone itself. That optical effect is called labradorescence, and it is the defining feature of the mineral. What makes labradorite especially interesting is that nearly every layer of interpretation surrounding it, geological, historical, symbolic, artistic, and metaphysical, centers around the same core idea: hidden structure becoming visible under the right conditions. That consistency is unusually coherent for a mineral and helps explain why labradorite has maintained such a strong presence across so many different systems of meaning. Geologically, labradorite belongs to the plagioclase feldspar series and is composed primarily of sodium and calcium-rich feldspar. It has a Mohs hardness of approximately 6 to 6.5, making it durable enough for jewelry and decorative use while still requiring reasonable care. Unlike glittering minerals that reflect light from surface inclusions, labradorite's flash is entirely structural. Its shifting colors are created through microscopic internal lamellar layers, structural twinning, and interference patterns formed as light moves through those layered structures. These internal formations develop slowly during cooling processes within igneous rock. Over time, microscopic layers form inside the feldspar, and when light enters the stone, certain wavelengths are amplified while others are cancelled depending on viewing angle. That is why the color appears to move, disappear, and reappear with motion. The effect is not painted onto the surface or created by embedded pigment. The stone literally changes appearance depending on perspective. That alone explains why so many cultures attached symbolic meaning to it. Labradorite was formally identified in Labrador, Canada, in the late 18th century, which is where the stone receives its name. However, minerals displaying similar optical effects were known long before formal mineral classification. One of the most enduring cultural associations comes from Inuit traditions, where the flashes inside the stone were connected to the northern lights. A common retelling describes a warrior striking the rocks with a spear and releasing the aurora trapped inside them. Whether understood as literal folklore or later poetic adaptation, the symbolism aligns remarkably well with the material itself: light, hidden inside dark stone. One of the most significant varieties of labradorite is spectralite, a rare Finnish form known for especially vivid full-spectrum flash. Spectralite gained attention during World War II after deposits were discovered while Finnish forces were constructing defensive fortifications along the Salpa line in southeastern Finland. Compared to more common labradorite, the material displayed unusually intense coloration and broader spectral flash, eventually becoming one of the most valued forms of the mineral. Even the context of its discovery reinforced the symbolic pattern surrounding the stone: hidden color and structure emerging from rock during a period defined by instability, pressure, and defense. Because of its shifting optical effect, labradorite later became especially popular in decorative arts, jewelry, and architecture during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It appeared frequently in Art Nouveau work, Scandinavian decorative design, ornamental objects, and polished interior stone surfaces where changing light conditions allowed its appearance to transform throughout the day. Unlike static materials, labradorite visually responds to movement, angle, and environment. Its appearance is interactive rather than fixed, and that responsiveness contributed heavily to its artistic appeal. Culturally and symbolically, labradorite is often associated with perception, intuition, transformation, hidden information, threshold states, and internal awareness. Unlike stones connected to overt intensity or force, Labradorite is usually described as reflective, adaptive, layered, or transitional. It tends to symbolize altered perception rather than raw power. That distinction matters because the stone itself behaves that way physically. It does not overwhelm the viewer immediately. Its complexity only becomes visible when conditions change. Metaphysically, Labradorite is commonly associated with intuition, creativity, insight, pattern recognition, and navigating uncertainty. Yet even these interpretations usually emerge from the way the material behaves in the physical world. The stone appears ordinary until movement, light, angle, or attention changes the interaction. Because of that, many people associate it with hidden potential, emerging awareness, internal complexity, and unseen structure. It is also frequently connected to periods of transition, particularly those involving identity, direction, or perception. In nervous system language, Labradorite aligns less with activation and more with adaptive awareness, flexible attention, and perceptual shift. Where sunstone tends to emphasize usable movement and forward activation, Labradorite more often emphasizes seeing differently before acting differently. In feng shui and environmental placement, Labradorite is commonly used in spaces connected to creativity, study, reflection, transition, and focused thought. It is generally considered more dynamic than grounding stones, while remaining less overtly activating than strongly yang materials. Because it changes visually with movement and light, it is often placed where natural lighting shifts throughout the day or where people physically move around it. Labradorite rewards interaction. It is not a static-looking stone, and its environment changes the way it is perceived. The different colors of flash have also developed their own symbolic associations over time, even though those interpretations are cultural rather than scientific. Blue flash is the most classic and recognizable form of Labradorite and is commonly linked to calm awareness, intuition, communication, depth, and mental clarity. Gold flash is usually interpreted as warmer and more outwardly active, often associated with confidence, vitality, creativity, and expression. Green flash is frequently connected to adaptability, restoration, emotional balance, and growth, while rarer purple or violet flashes are often associated with imagination, introspection, altered perception, and visionary symbolism. Full spectrum or multicolored pieces are especially valued because they display broader interference patterns and more complex internal layering. Commercially, these specimens are highly sought after because the visual effect is dramatic, but even structurally, they demonstrate a wider range of internal optical interaction. Labradorite also performs exceptionally well visually, particularly in photography and film, because movement continuously changes the image. Light changes the image. Angle changes the image. This creates built-in visual storytelling. The viewer experiences revelation, emergence, and hidden structure becoming visible in real time. Even people with no knowledge of mineralogy tend to respond emotionally to the stone because the experience of looking at it mimics discovery itself. In many ways, that is the core reason Labradorite remains so compelling across geology, art, history, symbolism, and metaphysical interpretation alike. The stone behaves like hidden structure becoming visible. Its meaning is not imposed onto the material afterward. It emerges naturally from the way the material itself interacts with light.